hold on, everyone. Before starting, this is the present show. So welcome everyone to the present show. And before starting anything, have a minute of mindfulness with all of us. Let's start with that, right? So for 1 minute, just observe the beginning of the present show. Thank you for coming. The show might start, and I'm here not alone, but with MindfulPat and with our guest, Mike Orzen. Welcome, everyone. Ciao, Pat.
Ciao, ciao. I'd like to welcome everyone to a special broadcast of the Present Show because we have teamed up with the Mindfulness at IBM Summit to test the waters when it comes to external live streaming. And we thought, who better than to invite Mike Orzen to be our guest. But before we get into the itty-gritty of the show and Mike, I just wanted to take a little bit of time to thank a lot of people that have been involved in creating this summit. Steve Ware, thanks for having this bold vision 3 years ago. The mindfulness practice leaders around the world that continue to grow and inspire the community. The countless volunteers that work behind the scenes to make this stuff happen. Our executive sponsor, Laurence Jolie, and all the executive ambassadors. The partnerships that we have with the mental health at IBM community. It is Mental Health Awareness Month. We did have a Mental Health Awareness Day. There's a lot of resources when it comes to mental well-being, so please check that out. I also wanted to thank leadership, learning and inclusion, corporate citizenship, Agile at IBM, the Millennial Corps, health promotion team, and yoga at IBM. And all the speakers that have already come during the summit and everyone else that will be coming in the next few days. And most importantly, thank you all for finding the time, making the time to join us, to learn with us, and we hope to give you a nice session. With me is Lele, also a bold visionary that had the idea of this show. We've interviewed 70 or more people from around the world when it comes to this topic, and we wanted to bring in Mike Orzen, who is, in a sense, a master of mine, a student of mine, but most importantly, a friend. And we've been collaborating for some time now. I'm really happy to have him here and to talk about a student of mine, but most importantly, a friend. And I do hear an echo now. I'm really happy to have him here and to talk about...
It's Mike watching watching the live streaming.
Mike, you're entering an inception.
Yeah.
Mike watching watching.
So if you can mute the YouTube channel. Mike, you're entering an inception.
Yeah, I'm getting like 4 waves of echo.
So if you can mute the YouTube channel.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, just switch off.
Oh, 4
because
waves.
it comes
of echo.
So if you can mute the...
So
Okay. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Oh, 4 waves.
It's nice. It's like
Okay.
If I looking yourself in the mirror with a mirror behind, right?
Uh-huh.
And there is no end to it. But now I see the end. Excellent. So, Mike, since you started, tell us something more about you as well.
You're on mute, Mike.
I muted him. Let me try. Unmute. No.
No worries, just a second.
Time to take a breath.
I think it's because you muted him, Lele. Mike, if you can.
Okay, now I'm unmuted, so you can hear me.
Yes. Yes, we can.
It's all you.
Okay.
Tell us a bit about yourself. You muted him, Lele. Mike, if you can.
Okay, now I'm unmuted, so you can hear me.
Yes.
So where is the?
No, the browser. Close the browser.
Yeah,
I don't know
that's
if
what.
you have Safari, Explorer, or Firefox,
Yeah.
whatever. Just close it. You don't need it.
Okay, how's that?
We'll monitor
Yes.
the chat.
Okay, that was trippy. That was really good. Okay. Were you asking me a question?
We were just briefly introducing you, and
Yeah.
yeah, just tell us quickly in a nutshell who you are.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I've been practicing meditation, yoga, and mindfulness for about 40 years now. When I was a young teenager, I just happened to be at the right place at the right time. I took a yoga class, and I was hooked. And throughout my life, I've just found that mindfulness and self-awareness has been my very, very best friend and my deepest resource. And I just love the way it's kind of exploding around the world. So that's a little bit of me.
Nice. So oftentimes when we associate, mindfulness, meditation, and yoga, we think about this idyllic, calm, relaxed, right? Everything's perfect. The music's playing, butterflies, the flowers are blossoming. But how do you keep your mind, right, when the shit hits the fan? And it seems like it hits the fan often these days.
This one.
Yeah, it does. And yeah, there's the fan, and we all know what the shit is. Everything from world events to pressures and stress at work to just the surprises of daily life. Everything from getting in a car accident to having your girlfriend dump you. Could be anything in between of those. And they all just take a little piece of us. And it's pretty easy when we're sitting on our cushion at home, or we're in a guided meditation at work with a group of people. With a little practice, anyone can go there. But I find it's definitely not as easy when you're in the field of play. So that's why I thought when what do you do when the shit hits the fan was a perfect title for the world that we live in today, and to bring the whole mindfulness theme into it. So can I share my presentation?
Yeah, go ahead. You go ahead. You can share.
Cool. So really, this is all about what we can do to tap into self-awareness when the stress is particularly heavy, is particularly tough. And the challenge, I think, for most people is we're absolutely overwhelmed. We've got so many things coming at us, and so many unopened emails, so many things we're supposed to respond to, so many places we need to be, that it just builds up. So we end up feeling scattered and fragmented as we try to keep up, but it's pretty much impossible because the load that's being put on us is greater than our capacity to perform. When it really gets difficult is when a boss gets in our face and says, you screwed up, or I'm not happy with something. And at that moment, when that pressure is on, it's really, really hard to keep it together. It's perhaps even harder when the client is on our back, because a boss at least is kind of familiar fire. But when the client attacks us or attacks the situation or talks about frustration, our mind starts to spin. What does this mean for the relationship? What does it mean for me in my career? When all of that happens, we go into a heavy stress mode and a fear mode. And it's amazing because chemically speaking, it's not any different than if we were being chased by a wild lion. We basically start to pump adrenaline and cortisol, and we lose it. And all the mindfulness training, all the practice, all the yoga, all the breath work, it kind of goes out the window, particularly when we're in this level of stress. So what we want to do is say, what can we do? Now, we all know we're supposed to keep calm. That's what we're supposed to do. Well, it's easy to say, but when there's a gun to your head, or when the shit hits the fan, it's not so easy to do. So what I'd like you to do is walk through 4 different strategies that you can use when the shit hits the fan. You don't have to use them all. You might find that there's one that's particularly good for you, and that'll be your little tool going forward. But to prepare for these exercises, you want to think of a time when the shit hit the fan in your life. Think of something very specific. You might close your eyes and picture the event. Where were you? Who was involved? Were you on the phone? Were you staring at a screen? Was there a team of people there? Was somebody yelling, or was it more of a subtle pressure? Picture it in your head as best you can and ask yourself, how did I feel? If you can bring back the physical emotion, were you tense? Were you sweating? Was your heart beating? Was your breath shallow? What was it? See if you can almost take yourself back to that period and get yourself into that frame of mind, not to upset anyone, but just so you can feel the impact of the exercise. For some people, it helps just to write a word or two down to remind them of whatever it was. It might be the name of somebody. It could be the name of an application that you were wrestling with at the time. It could be a client name, anything you want. But think of something that's kind of a trigger to bring you back of the time when the shit hit the fan. So the 4 strategies that we're going to cover are probably not unfamiliar to you if you've done a little bit of dabbling in awareness, but we're going to frame them differently. The first one is you can always use your breath, and we'll do an exercise in a moment. The second one is connect with your surroundings. And the third one is ground with your body. Now, those 3, think of them as a tool in your pocket that you could just reach in and grab one of these tools. And if one didn't work, go to the next tool. Many people find they've got a favorite. That's a tool that you're going to use in the moment when the lion is on your back, when the shit hits the fan, when you can't think straight. You know you want to calm down. You know you want clarity of mind. You know you want to take balanced action, but you just can't do it. You can feel the weight and the pressure of the moment. The fourth one, ask your advisors, is actually something you're going to use after the event. So the crisis, maybe it hasn't completely passed, but that moment of the shit hitting the fan, time has moved on. So maybe you're 5-10 minutes after that, or it could be even a few hours or even the next day after that. But what we're going to do is what I like to call a reflection. And you're going to ask your advisors what you can learn and what you can do the next time. And you're going to assess your overall performance in terms of applying these strategies. So let's start with the first one. So the first one is the breath. And there are many, many, probably hundreds of, they're called pranayams, breath exercises. And these are wonderful. The one we're going to use is an absolute classic. It's called the 4-part breath. And 4-part breath, I've done a lot of pranayama. I think it's just the best one. It just seems to center us, stabilize us, and calm us down in very short order. So we're going to do this exercise with our eyes closed or closed 9/10 and just slightly glancing out. Now, in real life, obviously, if your boss is yelling at you or you're in a heated discussion with your team and things are not going well, you're not going to close your eyes in the group. But today, I'd suggest that you would practice it with the eyes closed so you can really get the feeling. Think of the physical side of it. You can do this with your eyes open. No one even knows you're doing it if you do it subtly. But to practice, I suggest you shut your eyes down. So if you would, close your eyes and think of a time when the shit hit the fan and a time that you were not together. You were feeling like you were becoming a little disheveled, a little destabilized. And when that happens, all you're going to do is consider this 4-part breath. The inhale is for a set period of times. And I find that 4 seconds works for most people. So we inhale and we silently count 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we hold the breath, not stressing, not squeezing, but we just don't breathe in or out for a count of 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Then we slowly exhale, 2, 3, 4. And then we inhale once again. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's inhale 4, hold 4. Exhale 4, hold 4. Now, for some people, when you're holding on the exhale, that can be a little challenging. This is the secret of the 4-part breath. If you relax, when your brain says, hey, I really need to breathe in, what am I doing holding my breath with no oxygen in my lungs? If you just relax into that, observe the feeling without panicking, you totally take the stress out of the moment, and the shit hitting the fan just doesn't control you. It just works. So let's give it a try. We're going to do this for 2 minutes. I'll just count the first round and then you'll continue. And inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. And inhale and continue. And inhale deeply and relax the breath. Now just observe your mind right now and observe where you are. Now, thinking about the time when the shit hit the fan is not the same as being in the breach. It's not the same as being there. But hopefully you can sense a huge difference between that moment of stress and the impact of the 4-part breath. So this is our first tool. It's always with you. It's always there. If you prefer a different breath, some people like different breathing patterns. If 4-part breath is not your cup of tea, it's totally fine. But always remember, it's almost like the first thing to reach for, because you've got to breathe. So why not use the breath as an ally, as a tool to manage those tough times when the stress is really heavy?
Right. You think it's also something I can do, a moment where is everything very nervous, very stressful. I just, say I go to the toilet, and then instead I go into a quiet room, I do it and I come back, right? Is it something
Yeah.
right on the
And
spot?
that's a really good point. Some people like to remove themselves from the room and get a little space, like go to the toilet or just walk down the hall, get a drink of water. Other people, after you've done this a little while, I find you can do this right in the meeting. No one really knows you're doing it. The next 2 exercises I would suggest you can also do in the meeting without having to break away. The funny thing is, when you're looking at somebody, even if they're yelling or even if they're frustrated or even if the tension is there, the breath has a way of almost cutting through to the moment, because what it's doing is bringing you to the present moment. So a lot of the stories that we're telling inside, because typically what happens with all that adrenaline pumping, besides our shallow breathing, we start telling a story. And the story is, I'm really scared. Maybe I'm not going to say that to myself, but I'm very, very upset. Something isn't right. And we start thinking about, what could this lead to? What's the implication? Who's impacted? What can I do? And it just takes you off of your game. So if you say, I need some space, that's a great idea to walk down the hall. Try the breathing. You could do the breathing as you're walking down the hall to get a coffee or whatever. But with a little practice, you'll be able to do this anywhere. Certainly at the moment when the shit's flying, so to speak. And I see your fan back there. That's a nice touch. Very nice.
I really like the element of practicing, and while in an ideal world you can sort of imagine or conceptualize yourself into these crazy situations, right, where shit's hitting the fan, but this is a little practice, right, that you can do, you can train throughout your day or whenever, where you actually induce a little bit of stress, a little bit of tension in a safe environment, right? In a little
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
you can build that up by trying to hold the breath longer or the exhale longer, and see what the mind starts doing, how the body starts reacting. And really, you'll be okay if you don't breathe for a little bit longer.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't met anyone or heard of anyone that's ever passed out or anything like that. People are concerned, am I going to hurt myself? No, you're not going to hurt yourself. This is totally safe. But that controlled pressure that we're putting on ourselves actually helps the body to rise above, because that response to the lion is so hardwired in us that all the logic and reasoning in the world cannot override that. It's like the lion and the fear and the fight and the flight is hard coded. So there's nothing we can do about it. It's just part of the program. And we really can't, the only thing we can do is write a script to reroute the code, to go around the hard code, just to say, we're just not going to read that. We know it's there, but that's just not going to be part of the sequence. Or when we notice it's part of the sequence, we're going to reroute. So this next exercise is, I particularly like this one because it's always fresh. And this is what we're going to do here is we're going to access our surroundings. We're going to focus on what's in the room, what's in front of us, whatever it is that we are seeing with our eyes. So I could have somebody yelling. I could have somebody banging on the table. I could be on the phone, or I'm on a Zoom call and I've got somebody on a rant. So I'm always, even if I'm looking at that person, there's also other things within my purview. There could be the desk, there could be the wall, there might be some artwork, there could be the outside, there could be nature looking out the window, or perhaps a blue sky, anything like that. And in this one, when we try this, basically what we're going to do, we'll just do it for 2 minutes. But what you want to do on this one is keep your eyes open and observe what you're looking at, and look at it. Do your best to view whatever it is, and you can move. You don't have to stare at one thing, like stare at your coffee cup for 2 minutes. You don't have to do that. You can look at other things. But I do find dwelling a little bit helps, not to the point where it's weird, but just noticing. And what you're looking at is, see if you can generate the curiosity to look at that thing as if you never saw it before, ever. So if I was to look at this coffee cup, I'm looking at it for the first time. So I could look much more closely and notice that it has a particular shape to the handle. I might notice and look at what the logo is. But even more importantly than the shape, I want to look at the lighting. Where is their shadow? Where is their light? What is the color of the mug? Is it the same color throughout, or does it have different shading? Look at the dimensions of the mug. It's a three-dimensional object, but what's in the foreground? What's in the middle? Oh, there's depth in the middle. Think of the back. So we're really observing it at a much deeper, almost a profound level that we typically don't do. And it turns out grounding ourselves in what's around us by observing very, very closely is just well, you'll see. The effect is very similar to the breath work. It's very grounding. It's very calming, and it rescripts us and sends us in another direction. So if you would, close your eyes. Let's try this for a second. And just take a regular inhale, nothing major, just inhale and exhale. And on the inhale, open your eyes and just notice what you see. Just notice what that is and look at it as if you had never seen it before. And observe as closely as you can what it is you see. Look at the layers. Look at the dimensions. Look at the shades and the colors. Look at the shapes. And inhale deeply. And exhale.
The great practice. Great practice. The fact of the matter is, just like you can never walk into the same river twice, you can never look at anything the same twice, because on a macro, molecular, nano, atom level,
Yeah,
the math, the physics, the chemistry, the science is telling us that everything is in a constant flux and change and movement.
it's a great point. It's
What our
not the same.
It's not the same, right? What our mind does, and probably for good reason, there is some advantage to this. We try to
Yes.
keep everything the same and known and static. But if you observe it in a different perspective, I think you start seeing everything around you as if it were a great big dance and you're enjoying the show.
Mm-hmm. That's a
We are
good way
not the
to say
same
it.
as well, right?
What's that?
We are not the same as a start.
No, not at all. So that's a really good point. We're also dynamic and constantly changing. But part of our, I think, our management of the world is to say, look, I've seen a bus. I'm not going to analyze every inch of the bus as it drives by. I know what my coffee cup looks like. And so we trade that level of looking at everything as it were fresh and new for a little bit of control or sanity. It kind of limits our scope. But when we access that again, it's so invigorating because it brings us to that self-awareness. Now, some people have asked me, can I blend the two? Can I do the breath work and observe my surroundings as if for the first time? Of course, the answer is yes, you may. Of course you can. If that's effective, find your recipe. Everybody has a slightly different taste towards anything, whether it's coffee or spaghetti sauce. So what is your sauce? What works for you? So that could be maybe a little deep breathing while I'm observing my surroundings. That might be the 4-part breath. It really, there's no one way to do it. You're doing it right when you notice, how quickly do I get centered? Do I calm down and I start to think more clearly after a really stressful moment? So when the shit's flying with Lele's fan, how quickly do I get my act together? And if it's, hey, the breath work is definitely my ticket, then you got it. So it's fun to experiment and to play around, and try different sauces, so to speak, and find the flavor that's right for you.
There is Kat that she's commenting in the chat that what I felt while doing this, as the object melted and lost its edges, I felt myself and my mind doing the same thing. So,
oh, beautiful.
Thank
That's
you, Kat,
nice. That's really nice. Thanks for that.
One thing I would have to say, perhaps, I think be aware of your facial expression, because if you have your boss in front of you or your wife or partner,
yes,
and you are looking somewhere and you start smiling and being happy, and so this one is very angry, that doesn't come out very well, right?
You just helped me out. I have no idea why, but I was doing this last week and somebody got really upset with me. That was it. No, I'm kidding. But you're absolutely right. You do need to be aware of your environment. If you go into, if you get too fixated on something and almost go into a trance over something, no. Now, if you want that level of depth, because that is really quite useful, do that in your private practice. So probably the most I shouldn't say famous, but one of the most prevalent and oldest techniques is simply staring at a candle. You light a candle and you gaze at the candle. There's also another one that's extremely powerful. It's called Tritikam. Tritikam meditation. If you happen to have a teacher in your life, this could be a guru that you've studied under, or it could just be somebody that you deeply admire. Maybe it's a picture of the Dalai Lama. Maybe it's a picture of the Buddha. Maybe it's a picture of nature. It doesn't have to be a human. And you gaze at the picture very much in the same way that we're gazing at our surroundings. And you just allow the image to kind of enter into your soul, so to speak. Very, very powerful. I've had a few friends that tried this, and they've said it was extremely moving. I know for me, it's been, it can really open up the heart. If you're trying to get deeper into your meditation, the Tritikam is very, very, it's like a super booster. But again, to your point, you wouldn't want to do that like with your boss there, and it's just too deep.
Mike, one of the participants is commenting, and I think they're making a good point. When we don't have the slides up, the share screen, then we could see our facial expressions better. So if you can use the deck, right, to show the next strategy, and then switch off when you're talking about it and how we're practicing.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's a great. Well, we're going to move to the body. And if I stop sharing, there we go. Is that better?
Yep.
Cool. Okay, so the next one is the body, and many people are very familiar with this. And this, of course, is to access our physical body. And you will find what works best for you. We're going to, in this guided meditation, we're going to try 3 different body parts. You could try any body part you want. But the 3 we're going to use are the 3 that most of my students say are the most impactful. So we'll try this. So again, we'll do it with our eyes closed, but this can very easily be done with the eyes open. In a meeting, you could be looking at your spouse or your boss or a coworker, and they wouldn't even know what was going on, but you'd be getting the benefit. So shut your eyes down or close them partially. Inhale deeply and let the breath go. Become aware of the soles of your feet. Feel the bottom of your feet. If you're wearing socks, feel the socks on the bottom of your feet. If you're wearing shoes, feel the shoes either around the socks or just on your feet. And now feel the soles of your feet in contact with the ground, with the floor, whatever they're touching. Become aware what it is like to have feet that are in socks or shoes or barefoot, and what it's like to have feet that touch the ground. Now we'll shift our attention. Become aware of your shoulders. Just feel around your shoulders and neck, your lower neck and shoulders. Some people sense a crunchiness or a tightness there, but not necessarily. So as you breathe in and out, notice, do the shoulders move? Are they stationary? Do they slightly move with the breath? Just how do they behave? Think of what your shoulders do, how they function. Holding your head, holding your back erect. Just think of a hanger for your arms is also part of the shoulder. Just think of the shoulders and how it feels to have shoulders. And finally, move your attention to your heart, to the center of your chest. What do you feel there? Is it tightness? Is it spatialness? Is there an emotion there? Most people have a blend of feelings in all these parts. So there might be a little hope. There could be a concern. There could be a blank slate, a little bit of nothingness. And inhale deeply. And release the breath. Open the eyes. So this is another great one. We have always got our body here. And it's beautiful because some people will say, I just can always tap into my body. It's the closest thing to me and it's there. Other people will say, my breath is works better for me. But you notice all three of these just bring us back to a mindful moment. They bring us back into a self-awareness. And they're wrapped, all three of these feelings are wrapped in a blanket of acceptance. So the resistance that naturally comes when the shit hits the fan and when you feel that the lion is going to pounce, it's just the way we're wired. That resistance is really what we're trying to smooth. We just want to smooth it out. And all three of these techniques are just an easy way to do that. Very easy way to do that.
Kinga's saying in the chat, I like to remind people the point of mindfulness isn't escaping. It is to be able to be so aware of myself and my surroundings that I can fully engage, live in high resolution. And
Love it.
KPS 143 saying awesome, thanks. And Martine is saying very nice practice.
Excellent. I really like that. Yeah, it is all about engaging. So we've all had moments in our life where we were so engaged that we became what we were doing. We were a part of what we're doing. Some people experience this perhaps in sports or in nature or doing a high adrenaline type thing, like a bungee jump or something, like jumping out of a plane. But what it does, it brings us so precisely into the present moment that everything else fades away. And I think when we're practicing any mindfulness technique, any meditation, any breath work, any yoga, we're giving ourselves just a little reminder of what that is and what that feels like. And with practice, we just get better at anything. That is the beauty of the human system. We get better with practice. So what a bonus that is. So the final exercise is really a different tool. And as I mentioned before, this is something that you'll use after the experience of the shit hitting the fan. So often afterwards, we might be home that evening, we might be commuting home. It could be the next day or finally on the weekend, we catch a breath and we say, what on earth happened? What was that all about? And we kind of reflect on it. Well, unfortunately, for many of us, the way we reflect is we beat ourselves up. The first thing we say is, what could I have done to prevent it? How did I screw up? Or worse, we use negative talk. And one of the things I would highly suggest is, from this moment forth, for the rest of your life, you will never say a mean thing about yourself to yourself ever again, ever. So self-criticism is one thing, but to say I'm an idiot, to say I'm just a fool for doing that, to beat yourself up, it just doesn't work. It's not constructive. So we let that go. So this is about consulting your advisors. So you might be wondering, how do I find these advisors? Do I tweet Mike or Patrick and I say, well, what? No, actually, your advisors live within you. They live within you. So we're going to do a brief guided meditation, introduce you to your advisors. So inhale deeply and release the breath. Shut down the eyes. So imagine the shit has hit the fan and now you're away from that event. It could be minutes, hours, or even days, but the event is past. We find a quiet place, we make ourselves comfortable, either in a sitting or a lying position, and envision yourself at a table with two other people. Both those people are you. There are three of you sitting at a table. You are the observing presence. The other two people at the table are your advisors. I'd like for you to meet your first advisor. Your first advisor is logical reasoning. Logical reasoning. You're very familiar with logical reasoning because you use this advisor constantly throughout the day as we think of what do I want to do? How do I want to behave? How do I prioritize my work? How do I respond to that? So your logical reasoning is a great resource, but it's only one of your advisors. I'd like to introduce you to your second advisor. Your second advisor is the voice of intuition. The voice of intuition is that inner voice, that inner compass that can often help us navigate our way through any situation. But often that voice of intuition is muted. In other words, we give so much bandwidth to logical reasoning that intuition doesn't have much of an opportunity to speak. Now, what we do is think about the situation that we just went through. First, we turn to our logical reasoning advisor, and we say, from logical reasoning, we ask, what happened? What did I expect to have happen? And what is the difference between the two? The difference between what actually occurred and what I thought would occur, or what I anticipated or expected would occur. Don't label it. Don't criticize it. Try to look at it as a passive, neutral observer. Can I see the difference between what happened and what I thought would happen? Now turn to your voice of intuition advisor and ask the following. What may I learn from this situation? What may I learn from this situation? And simply wait for an answer. And inhale deeply. And exhale. So this exercise is, as I mentioned earlier, it's very different than the first three. This is a much more of a personal reflection than anything else. But I have worked with some people and they've said, I heard nothing. I asked these questions. My logical reasoning voice, our advisor, had all kinds of things to say. You should have done this. You could have done that. Why didn't you anticipate? Again, if the voice comes back and it's critical, try not to take it personally. This is the challenge. But really what we're trying to do is activate what we call a neutral mind. So if the logical reasoning comes back and starts criticizing, almost listen to it as if they were talking about another person. In other words, don't take it personally. But the voice that many people find extremely helpful is when we turn to our voice of intuition and we ask, what can I learn? What can I learn? And if you don't get an answer, try it again. Most people get insight or an answer or a learning from the reflection by the second or third time. But with a little bit of practice, again, the first time you access your advisors, they are there for you. And they'll always be there.
Comments, beautiful, Mike. Thank you. Wow, what a peaceful voice.
Nice.
All right. So, what about, can you get to a point where life won't throw any more shit at you?
Not as long as your heart is beating. So not if you're still around. I've never seen it, and I don't think it's realistic to think, because I would say 99.99999% of our life is totally outside of our control. We love to think that we have this major handle on our world and everything around it, but unfortunately, it just is not the case. It makes us feel comfortable believing that, and it's okay to believe that. But the reality is there's so many factors that are outside of our control. So not only can you expect that the shit will continue to hit the fan, and that it'll be everything from picking up the newspaper or reading your news feed, or getting sick, or eating a bad piece of pizza and getting food poisoning or whatever. It's gonna happen, or just getting up and not feeling 100%, and everything in between. So that's going to continue. And really, someone once said, we cannot control what happens to us in life. The only thing we can attempt to influence is our response to what happens in life. And these tools are so accessible, they're so simple, and they're so effective. And I would say, first, we want to practice with ourselves. But as soon as we feel that we understand what they are, we can really be of great service by sharing them with, first, begin with the people in your life that are closest to you, that you care about, that you love. So sharing this with young kids, with young children, is very, very powerful. So you can share this with a little kid, with like a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old. They'll adapt it to what they need. And maybe it's a little game for them, but they could grow up with this incredible tool, and what a gift that would be. So I believe if we want to kind of change the world and reduce the amount of shit that's hitting the fan, we'll never eliminate it. But if we wanted to reduce some of it, we would start by working on ourselves and sharing it with those that we care about and those that we see. So it could be our coworkers would be an excellent place to share.
Cool. That's what also we are trying to do in the mindfulness at IBM community.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
everybody have their own fun, right? And you point whenever something is hitting you. And your mindfulness fun is going to be with you all the time.
There you go. That's right. And that fan kind of comes and goes. You're right. It oscillates. It goes all over the place. Very true.
The important side is actually this, right? You need to, because you need to connect, right? So that's always the hardest part, because the exercise, are something simple to follow, but
yes,
knowing when to do the exercise, that's the right moment, right? That to breathe, or to focus on our body, or to talk to our inner self. That's hard to get there. Right?
Yeah. So I personally believe in a daily practice. This is just so important. If you really want to reap the benefits of this, or meditation or yoga, you do a daily practice. And the daily practice is called sadhana. So sadhana is just Sanskrit for daily practice. And someone once, I forget who said this, but somebody once said, do the hardest thing in your day as your first task. So whatever you don't want to do that first. Now, after a while, you might enjoy doing it. But at first, if you find, well, I want to meditate, but I don't have the time, do it first thing. So I don't know anyone that doesn't have, a few minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a half an hour, whatever works for you, when you first get up in the morning and, start your day. It's a wonderful way to get started. It's also good if you can't sleep. It's very good to to try mindful exercises. There's many of them.
Mike, there's a question. Can you tell us about the artwork in the back?
The artwork. Oh yeah, but I'm thinking, what artwork? So this, I actually made this. I had some help, but these are the chakras. So I'm a Kundalini yoga instructor, and as part of the 11-month training, we had to do an art project. And I said, I don't particularly spend a lot of time with art, so I decided to do the chakras. And each chakra represents a component of our body as well as our personality. And it has a color, and it has a shadow side, and a positive or a light side. And that's what I put together. Now, in most yoga traditions, you'll hear of 7 chakras. So you'll see 7. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's actually, in Kundalini yoga, it's considered an 8th chakra. It's considered your aura. So it's not actually inside your body. But that's what that is. So if you're interested in chakras, that's a very deep topic, but there's a lot of great wisdom there too.
Thanks for sharing, Mike. It's lovely.
Sure. So let me see. So we did the advisors. Oh, there was just one more slide I wanted to share. If I can go over here and share, and let's see if I can find it. Yeah, so we did there we go. So we did that, but I love this image, and maybe you could take this with you. So look at that owl. Look at how the owl is totally there, totally observing, totally being. To me, when I see that picture, I think of presence. I think of a deep presence. Now, I can't imagine that owl is judging or labeling or saying this is good or this is bad or this isn't what I wanted. When I see this picture, I think of the owl acknowledging what's there and accepting it for exactly what it is. No story around it. If there's a mouse, there's a mouse. If there's a wolf, there's a wolf. If there's a storm, there's a storm. But it's not a good storm or a bad storm or a good mouse or a bad mouse. It's just what it is. But look at those eyes, the presence there. It's the focus. But at the same time, there's no strain. It's not like that owl is going, oh, I'm trying to focus. Because the more you try to do anything, you can't do it. Who was the I think Yoda said that. There is no try, there is only do. Wasn't that Yoda?
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, there's the truth right there. And clearly that owl is related to Yoda, no doubt about it.
So he's in the bright side of the force.
Yeah, and very good. Yeah, and definitely the light side. Very important.
Perfect. Mike, Lele, everyone that joined us for the live streaming, thank you so much for being with us, for raising your questions, your comments. Mike, thank you for finding the time, for sharing us these.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's been great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And everybody that is watching, you can always follow the Present Show, because I think once a month, let's say, we have a new episode all the time with also a new mindful minute. So like it's an opportunity for everyone to learn something new, to meet somebody new, and to have something more in your practice.
Cool.
And
very nice.
Tomorrow we're kicking off with mental health boosters We have sports and mindfulness. We have external guest speaker from SAP. We're talking about stress. We're talking about conscious parenting. We're going for a mindful walk. And we have an external guest speaker speaking about being fully awake, opening your life to possibilities. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, guys.